Alrighty. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining our virtual workshop series, DC Circle Sessions. My name is Sarah.
I'm Jazz.
And we are the founders of Distant Connections, a creative campaign designed to connect others through creativity. Creating is a process, and we all know that when creating with one another, it is super important to have support and create a safe space in order to do so. We have created this workshop series for our members to share insights, and this time around, we would like to share our own insights. So thanks again for joining. So today we're going to be talking on the topic of how to successfully collaborate with one another. So thanks again. And before we do get started, I'm sure that we're all a little bit familiar with one another, but just keep in mind throughout the presentation, keep your mics muted until we instruct otherwise. And then also, we can also in the comments or in the chat, let us know your name and your creative discipline and where you're tuning in from, just to get started.
Yes. We can start off with the presentation. I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah.
Actually, really quick, can you make me co-host?
Cool.
Pull it up. So excited to share. We've been working on this presentation for the past couple of days. But just in general, like I think making a good collaboration is always I think collaborations in general help grow a product or an idea like to its fullest extent. So we're excited to share with you how we've been able to do that. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna do a little full screen mode. And we're feeling good. All right. So this is Circle Sessions number 5, creating a successful collaboration. My name is Jazz. I'm a Caribbean American creative producer, creating transformative experiences that empower others to share stories about their culture, identity, and wellness.
And my name is Sarah. I'm an Eritrean and Italian immigrant who captures life through stories in form of photo and design. And together, we're two friends who want to show love and spread joy through our work.
Yes. Now, we'll get into the formula. This is kind of our formula for creating successful collabs. It's a what, a who, a why, and a how. And these do not necessarily need to go in any particular order. It can kind of flow however you see fit. Add or start whatever order that you think really applies for you, but make sure you have all of the ingredients. Now, the what. You're just going to start off with an idea. This can be an inspiration or something that you had that just came to mind, but you always want to start off with an idea. We can tell you a little bit about how our Distant Connections idea started.
Yes, it definitely started off as just a random thought, like, what if we can connect people through on like an online platform. And that kind of came up after being in quarantines in the beginning of quarantine in April. There was a lot of mixed emotions, unsure of the future, and then not knowing when is it possible to go out and do something creative. This gave us an opportunity to think outside the box and see how we can actually accomplish collaborating with others around the world, in our area, but all through the safety net of being home and within the CDC guidelines, obviously. So that's kind of how the idea was birthed, is just we wanted to create people who are creative, like-minded, not like-minded, all of that, but at the same time, have the freedom for them to make decisions on their own and make it a challenge as well. So that's why it's a 24-hour challenge. And I came to that idea with Jazz. As you see on the right side, there's the text of explaining what this whole crazy idea was. And she was obviously game for it, and it ended up being our collaboration. So it started off with a collaboration as well.
So good.
So again, how we're starting off is with the what, and when you're asking what, you have to ask the questions in order to get your solid idea. So first thing is you want to start off with, what are you interested in? What sparks joy? What is something that you're actually passionate about? And start with that, because if you're not interested in what you're doing, then most likely you won't follow through. So have interest, have something that you are really interested in, and then not only that, find something that will help others in the world. What is a problem that you can solve in the world? Is it a healthcare issue? Will your project help people in your area, people outside of your area? What is the problems that you see in the world, and how can your project help? And I think that also really aligns with the next question in this bubble here on the left, bottom left, is what trends do you see? Is it environmental? Do you want to help something to do with any kind of sustainability initiatives, or socioeconomic, anything in different socioeconomic climates? So just generally start asking these questions. What trends do you see? Where will your project fit in? And then what story are you trying to tell? I think that's definitely a big one. How are you going to reach the people? And yeah, so these are the first ideas of how to solidify your beginning idea.
For sure. And like we said, like, of course, you want to start with an idea, something that you had, but if you don't have a solid idea, those are really great questions to kind of get the ball rolling. Another kind of thing to remember, to keep in mind whenever you're coming up with an idea, is to understand that there's two different kind of phases. There's a creative and an analytical phase when it comes to ideating and planning for that idea. The ideation or the creative phase really starts with brainstorming, getting all of your ideas out, mood boarding, doing a brain dump, just literally writing down everything, recording everything, getting all of your ideas and pulling them together. It doesn't necessarily need to be as organized, but just make sure you have a good section. Really like take a look at some of those questions and jot down the first things that come to mind. And then we move into an analytical phase, which is more of that organizational aspect. You want to take the time to really review all of your ideas and organize them, make different iterations of them, and really see what is going to be feasible for you in the climate that you're in and the season that you're in, with what you have available. Just kind of take that time to sort through all of your creativity and all your creative ideas.
Then moving into the who part of the formula. So now you want to define, like, who do you want to be on your team, and can you work well with these people? So when going about it, there's definitely two ways you can connect with people. Either you want to connect with someone you already know, or connect with someone you don't know. So when connecting with someone you know, never assume that they are, completely right for what you're trying to do. So some things you want to start off with is seeing their availability And not only that, but also, okay, they're available, but do their values align with the values that your project is based on and what your values are? So make sure your values align before asking, okay, do you want to be part of this project? So that's someone when connecting with someone you know. But when connecting with someone you don't know, figure out this is something where you want to actually have a solid idea before reaching out to someone you don't know, and figure out what skill sets you would need, what the project entails. If your project is a website, maybe you actually need someone who just needs the skill of graphics or illustration, and you need that just for that skill set. So define that. And then where can you find them? Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, maybe a friend of a friend, many ways of reaching out to people.
That's so good. All right. And so now once you kind of have an idea of who you're going to work with, you want to move on. We have a kind of a template developed for how to start reaching out with these people. You really want to start with connecting with the person on a personal level, like understand that, where everyone's a person, and you don't always just want to be reaching out to people for an ask if you don't really understand what's going on in their life. So it's really good to just start with giving a compliment and engaging with their content, kind of finding a connection between you two, whether it's a person you know, whether it's a person you don't know. It's just something really important to kind of like level set and get a ground of, I'm not just reaching out to you out of the blue, like I'm taking some time to just connect with you before I try to like reach out to you and ask you for anything. A really good kind of just framework of, if you don't know someone, hey, blank, insert your name there. I really love your work. You can probably talk to them about specific projects that you really like. I want to work with you because, and definitely outline why you're choosing them, why you're reaching out to connect with them, to work with them on this project. And then, of course, here's my idea. Share with them a brief description of the idea that you have working, or the idea, the idea that you want to work on. If you do already know that person, again, it's just kind of, hey, I hope all is well with you, and just making sure that you check in. But then going into, I have this idea, and sharing with them what that idea is, that you think they'd be a really great fit for the idea because of this, why specifically you're choosing to work with them, and asking if they would be interested in partnering. So just kind of a framework to look at when you are reaching out to connect with people and building your team. So after you're building, or after you've kind of connected with people, you want to take the time to really know your team, know who you're working with. And there's a couple of key things that you really need to understand, and of course, really good questions to ask. You want to understand what is important for you individually, as a person, as a creative, and what is important for your group collectively. What are the things that you definitely, that you can be flexible on, and the things that you know for sure, I am unyielding on this. Understand what are the things that you both bring to the table. This is so important. When it really comes to understanding your skill sets and really being able to understand your strengths and your weaknesses, you really need to know what you both are bringing to the table. That has so much to do with trusting people to be able to do their jobs and being able to hold people accountable. You want to, give people that space so that you're not micromanaging them. I'm pretty sure everyone has their own way that they like to work, and that should always be discussed. But you want to have a clear idea of what your roles are, what you're bringing to the table, and how you guys can best complement each other. Because that's really the goal for your team, is for you all to complement each other and work in the most effective way possible. So after you've kind of discussed what's important for you, what you guys are bringing to the table, you really want to discuss, what you want to learn. I think growth should always be something that we're moving towards, that we're pushing towards. And sometimes that's not, but I think that's something that you want to have in mind. Maybe kind of goals or benchmarks of things that you want, skills that you want to grow in, and allow each other the space to be able to grow and learn in that way. And then you also want to have an understanding. Again, you're individuals, but you're going to be working as a collective. And as an individual, you have your own creative process. And as a collective, there will be a creative process. And so making sure that you have the conversations as far as how do you like to work? What are your communication styles? And how do you like to receive feedback? I think those are all really pertinent in understanding your creative process and being able to work best effectively together. So definitely keep these things in mind as far as good things to know.
Absolutely. And that leads us to our why. And I know many people might think, oh, how come we didn't start with the why? But this is our process. And like you said, you can mix and match and see wherever you want to start in your own process. So in our why, keys to success. So when defining your why, you always want to know why something is important to you and why something is important to your collective, your group who you're working with. So something that is something that I got actually from working in the manufacturing industry is a root cause analysis. And this is one simple one that we do at my site, is ask when there's a problem and we're trying to solve a problem, we ask a series of 5 why questions in order to get to the root of the problem. And so this can be used before the fact of having a problem. So when you're trying to create something, you definitely want to ask those series of why questions to get to the root of why something's important to you. And that way, okay, this will lead to my mission, vision, and purpose. So that will lead to your next question of what is the goal? Once you have solidified why is important, go into what is the goal and what does success look like to you and your group. And once you have understood what is important to you, this will come very easily and will make much more sense of what is the purpose of your project and your collaboration as a whole. And so once you have that, once you know what the purpose is, once you know what's important for your group and your collaboration, it will lead you to finding that proper audience that will actually be interested and would like to either, if you're actually selling or making a profit out of your project, have them be your customer base. So understanding who your audience is and why would you want them to be part of your collective at the same time. And something for us specifically that we keep in mind is it might not just be one kind of audience. So for us, for Distant Connections, we have 2 kinds of audiences. One is the viewer. So the viewer is someone who will look at our page, enjoy it, understand what it's about, and really just engage with it in that level. And then we have the collaborators, people who are actually taking part into our process and have their work on our page. So they are the internal community, and then the external will be the viewers. So always identify who your audience is as well. And then what do you want your audience to take away from interacting with this experience? And it is just that understanding who your audience is will help you understand what kind of experience will you give to those certain type of audiences. So always keeping that in mind and making sure they're always coming back, presenting yourself in a way that will always make your audience, your community want to stay connected, be part of the community.
Awesome. So again, kind of like really pushing into that, or really leaning into that why. Like, let's talk about our keys to success. For our keys, for our why, the keys to success, we have four, like, or we have a couple of like main points that we wanted to like hit on. For why is this important? We've outlined really like bringing this back to distant connections and why that was important. We've recognized a gap in the social connections throughout the creative space. It weakens our ability when we are divided, and we want to offer a platform to establish new links, build empathetic connections, and create a vast community of creatives that share stories. Connecting with people is so important. And I think this is something Sarah and I have both learned, even throughout our process of dealing with distant connections. The fact that a lot of these creative collaborations are like really mending like loneliness for a lot of people. And it's so important to be able to have spaces to process creatively and really be able to connect with others in a meaningful way. I think that's, that just adds to even more of why it's important, the things we weren't even aware of. And so just kind of like really leaning into the ethics and like the human connection or the human component to your project, to your idea, making sure that you really understand and are able to communicate why that's important. You also want to have an idea of who your audience is. And we've talked about this a little bit, but we do have two different audiences, and we are creatives ourselves. That was something that we wanted to highlight, is that we do want to create this space for people, but we are creatives. This is just as much as necessary and helpful for us as it is for our audience. You want to understand your goal. What does success look like for you? I think that speaks a little bit more to growth and your vision, what you see for your future, where your project could possibly go. A couple of you may have been with us since season 1, but it's already grown so far. We've got a lot more creatives and collaborators from different, like, diverse places. We've got people all the way in Amsterdam. We've got people all the way in New York and California. So we're growing in that way. But we've also been able to grow in our programming. We have virtual workshops like circle sessions now, which we're super excited about, and have been able to have different people host. We've had 4 other hosts that are also collaborators, and we look forward to the more hosts that are going to be coming. We've also been able to do Let's Unpack, which is our virtual weekly talk series, where we can really just unpack a topic. And I think continuing to build out our programming has really looked like success and growth for us, and connecting with more and more people. So just kind of talking a little bit more about the how you approach your idea, and how you do that successful collab. It's really important to know how to make meaningful connections. And these are our pillars of what it means to make a meaningful connection. Being able to be vulnerable with your partner and have that human component added to your idea, I think is so necessary. Creativity in general is a very emotional and vulnerable process, but you really want to allow yourself, and it's going to lead into this, be open. Allow yourself to be open to where your ideas might take you, and the type of ideas that you might be able to grow in your project. I think that's just so, the more closed off you are, the less freedom and fluidity and power you're really going to be able to have, an impact you're going to be able to have. Vulnerability and openness are so important. When it comes to respect as well, I think these all just kind of lean into each other. You want to be able to respect not only your creative ideas and what you bring to the project, but be able to have that respect for your partners or your partner or your collaborators. If you don't respect each other, if you're not showing each other kindness, or you're not showing each other decency during your collaboration, it's not going to be a meaningful connection. It's not going to be a meaningful experience. It's probably going to be, if anything, more negative. So just really want to drive that into the ground. Respect is like number one. Kindness is needed in the world. That's number one as well. And you want to be able to be communicative. And we wrote early and often just to kind of like highlight that. Communication, there's so many things, especially in a virtual context, that things are not necessarily, they don't come across in the same way. So you want to be able to communicate early and often, and ask questions. If there's any, I think what we want to really like hammer in is the idea that you don't want to assume anything. You don't want to assume anything about your partner, if they know how to do this, if they understood what you mean. Communicate, do it early, do it often, do it a lot more than you think you might need to, because that will just really make the experience more meaningful, make you feel a lot more connected as partners, as a mind, as a being that is putting forth this idea. And so, yeah.
Yes.
We're gonna move into a live brainstorm now.
Exciting. So we actually were interested in if anybody is brave enough to maybe share an idea. You could either unmute yourself at this point or put an idea in the chat, and we can help workshop the idea in this framework of the what, who, why, and how. Anyone interested? Taking a shot or something maybe that you already have and can frame in this context. Be cool.
Don't be shy.
Yeah. Nope. Tired, I guess.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can add some things in the chat. I think that might be good if like we all can get involved. But we'd love to know kind of we'll start with the first question. What problems do you see in the world, and what are you interested in learning more about? Let us know. I know for me, when I think of like things that I'm really interested in or things that I could see in the world that I can really help support, has been surrounded a lot more about wellness now, I would say, and specifically focusing on underrepresented groups.
I think that was like not surprising thing, but definitely a theme played out in some of the collaborations that we had. A lot of wellness, because definitely during COVID time, had a lot of introspection happening. So yes, I'm sure a lot of people have learned a lot about themselves around this time.
Oh yes.
Yes. So these are just some things that you can start thinking about, start brainstorming on your own. But no need, it's okay. No need to share today. You can share later.
Cool. So we had something in my eye. We had some key takeaways that we wanted you to really make sure that you were able to collect or gather from this presentation. Making sure that you really identify your story and your vision, which is knowing your what and your why. Then making sure that you know yourself and know your team, really explore that who, and be open to the process. Really, that speaks to the how, but Be open, be communicative, be kind, be respectful. Really like embody those attributes so that your idea can just grow and flow and be the beautiful thing that it's meant to be.
And we always love to end off with some resources, something that you can go and take action on today. So first off is before starting anything, you want to know yourself at least decently well. So something that you can do if you heard of the Myers-Briggs test or the Strengths Finder. So if you want to know a little bit more of yourself, do some self-searching, go ahead and do that. And then also read up on some related topics or follow some blogs that you might think would be interesting based on what your interests are. But some general things that can be good is the book Start with the Why by Simon Sinek. Everybody may have heard of this, but yes, I think that is a phenomenal book. Go check that out. Then if you're an auditory learner, you can check it out on Audible. And then another book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. This one's an old trusty for sure. I found it on YouTube too for free. So you can check that out if you like audio versions. And lastly, of course, make sure to collaborate with others. Follow us on Instagram to check out any communication. And we also share lots of resources on our page as well. Not only that, we're also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. And lastly, something interesting is going on Slack and joining groups that are of your interests. So different industries have their own very specific Slack groups. One that I can think of on the top of my head is Mimi Connect. They have their own Slack group, and you can actually find jobs and different kind of resources through those Slack groups, and maybe even find somebody you can collaborate with and use one of our templates. So, yes.
Exciting things. We had actually another comment in the chat that said that the DISC assessment is another good personality test. That would be really good. I forget what that stands for, the DISC, but that's another really good one.
Awesome.
So now we're going to open it up for questions. Let us know. You feel free to unmute or put something in the chat. Yeah, she said it helps you find people that work well with you, which is super key for the collabs.
Very good. All righty. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I know it was, no question, but I think we have one from Seychelles. Awesome, thank you. So hope you all had taken some notes, some takeaways. We'll definitely be sharing this recording on YouTube and sending this out through email. So make sure to look out for that for all this good information. So again, good night. Make sure to check us out on Instagram, distant.connections, and that's it. That's all.
Yes. Our next circle session will be on Saturday, November 28th. Yes. So 10 days. Hope to see you there. Great things. And yes, thanks for coming, everyone.
Yes, she got it right.
Hi, Mom. She's still here. Thanks, Mom.